Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all their support. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. So this year we've gotten a lot of new Magic products and a lot of brand new cards. I think with my Scryfall search for this episode, there was over 1,000 brand new cards for Commander that were not reprints, obviously. But yeah, so starting this year off all the way with Theros up until now, there's been a lot of new cards and a lot of new and exciting ones. Now, I'm not going to be including Commanders in my episode today where I talk about my favorite cards from 2020. I already did an episode that was the Golden Pig Awards where I talked about Commanders, so this one's going to exclude Commanders. But yeah, let's jump into my favorite cards of the year. So, the first one I want to talk about is Allure of the Unknown. This is a sorcery for 3 black-red and says reveal the top 6 cards of your library. An opponent exiles a non-land card from among them. Then you put the rest into your hand. That opponent may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. This card has a lot going on, but it's a really unique card and one that can really help you or really hurt you depending on kind of who you pick and what the cards are that are revealed. Again, basically, this is 5 mana, essentially draw 5 cards, which is absolutely absurd, especially in Rakdos. But yeah, draw 5, but your opponent gets to play one of the 6 cards that are revealed for free. So you can use this as a political card. This is definitely one that is going to be for certain niche decks, but again, it's just a very unique card where you make a deal with someone else and say, hey, I'll pick you with this, just whatever you're going to cast out of these, don't hit me with it, don't target me with it. It just really depends on what's in your deck. If you've got ways to know what's on top or what the top couple cards are, maybe you can kind of know what they're going to be able to cast. But yeah, this is just a very unique kind of political card. I love the direction of this. I love this kind of not really a group hug card, but again, a card that kind of gives that political kind of aspect of the game of Commander that makes Commander a really fun game. So yeah, I really enjoy this card. I hope we see more cards kind of like this in the future with that huge benefit, but also huge potential cost that can be detrimental to you as well. So yeah, with this one, especially, again, if you're casting it, make sure you pick the right player and make sure, just be careful. Next up, let's talk about Sanctum of All, a legendary enchantment shrine for Wooburg. That's one of each. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may search your library and or graveyard for a shrine card and put it onto the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. If an ability of another shrine you control triggers, when you control 6 or more shrines, the ability triggers an additional time. Shrine Tribal is a thing because of this card. This is a fantastic card, a really well-designed card that is basically kind of like a reverse Curse of Misfortunes, which is, basically the same thing, but for curses that gets things onto your opponents. This one is saying, hey, you get this out and let's get more shrines out. And then as soon as you get, a critical amount of shrines, now they're doubly as effective. So I'm really hoping that we see more shrines in the future. I was really excited when we saw this, as well as I believe 5 other shrines, one of each color, came out as well. So I hope there's more shrines to see in the future because, again, I think at this point we've got 11, if I'm correct. Again, let me know in the comments below if I'm incorrect about that. But yeah, I would love to see more shrines in the future. I think this is a really exciting design. And yeah, I just really like this, kind of like that reverse, again, curse card. So yeah, very exciting for shrines. Next up, Daring Fiend Bonder, a 5/1 human warlock with haste that costs 3 and a black. Daring Fiend Bonder attacks each combat if able. Pay 1 and a black, exile it from your graveyard, put an indestructible counter on target creature, activate this ability, and any time you can cast a sorcery. First off, a 5/1 with haste for 4. Not all that great, obviously, especially if it has to attack each turn if able, but you actually want it to die, so that's actually a good thing. And then when it's in your graveyard, basically an indestructible spell for only 2 mana, a permanently indestructible spell for 2 mana. And again, it's not really like an aura or, an equipment. It's just a way to permanently give a creature indestructible as long as that counter stays on them. Obviously, if they're blinked or that counter's removed, it goes away. But that's kind of like a semi-permanent way to give indestructible for just 2 mana. And again, if you're in a deck that's milling, if you're in a deck that's discarding, you can get this in your graveyard. And essentially, it's just basically an extra spell in your graveyard. You make kind of like a flashback-ish spell out of your graveyard. So that's a fantastic card. The one thing I'd like to comment on this is that I, like many people, kind of have not really a huge issue with, the indestructible counter. Obviously, it's kind of hard to, when you kind of add all these new kind of counters like flying counter, first strike counter, indestructible counter, It's kind of hard to keep track of, but again, I really like the design of this one outside of kind of that, that counter problem, I guess. But yeah, this is a very cool design. Again, a creature that wants to die, a way to give indestructible in a permanent, semi-permanent, I guess, way. Yeah, a very exciting card, I believe. Next up, we've got 9 Lives, and this one is just probably the most flavorful card of the year, I'd have to say. An enchantment for 1 white with hexproof. If a source would deal damage to you, prevent that damage and put an incarnation counter on 9 lives. When there are 9 or more incarnation counters on 9 lives, exile it, and when 9 lives leaves the battlefield, you lose the game. There's a lot going on with this, but basically, you get hit 9 times and you die. Essentially is kind of what this card is, but it basically says, okay, you might get hit for, 20 damage with something. Maybe someone casts a giant fireball or something. That's only going to be 1 damage to you instead, essentially, and not 1 damage, but 1 incarnation counter. So yeah, you get hit 9 times and then it's game over. And also if this leaves the battlefield, you're in trouble as well. So if someone's got a mass, removal spell, a mass wrath, that takes out kind of all enchantments, then you're in trouble as well, but it's got a hexproof, so it gets around targeted removal. The, interesting way to play with this card is, keep it around for a couple of turns or a turn or two, as long as, you keep those counters down. Maybe you get to 6, 7, 8 counters. Then, you maybe have a card that can donate to someone else, and then it's their problem. And then, maybe they get hit for 1 and they're gone. So yeah, it's just a very interesting and unique card. Again, not for every kind of a deck. It works really well with, I believe, Solemnity is the other card. That card combos with quite a few things, but not allowing it to get counters on it as well is another direction to go. Let's move on to the next one, though, with Tidal Barracuda, a 3/4 fish for 3 and a blue. Any player may cast spells as though they had flash. Your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. This is basically a Vidalcan Ori for all players, but they can't cast spells on your turn, which is fantastic because it's basically, your own personal Vidalcan Ori, and then it also benefits your opponents, but only kind of against your opponents. I guess it really can benefit them against you as well. But again, you basically protect yourself on your turn from them casting anything, no interaction on your turn. So your things are essentially uncounterable on your turn, which is great. And then also, you know that, in combat, there's nothing tricky that's going to happen as well. And you get that benefit of, again, like a Vidalcan Ori, being able to cast things whenever you want is huge. So this can really turn a game on its head. Can change the way that every player is going to play. And again, it does give your opponents a benefit, but it gives you the most benefit. And I really like this kind of a design of a card where it does kind of benefit all players, but really benefits you the most. And the right kind of a deck can really use and abuse this kind of a card. Let's move on to the next one, though, with Song of Creation, an enchantment for 1 green, blue, red. You may play initial land on each of your turns. Whenever you cast a spell, draw 2 cards. And at the beginning of your end step, discard your hand. This card has a lot of things going on. Again, I really like cards that kind of have that push and pull. You get some really big benefits with this card. Playing additional land on each of your turns, that's huge. Whenever you cast a spell, draw 2 cards. That's absurd. Absolutely absurd. But then at the beginning of your end step, discard your hand. That's a huge kind of downside to this card where, maybe you've got a way like Sundial of the Infinite to get around that. Maybe you actually want to discard your hand with this kind of a deck. Again, this card obviously would see a lot more play in kind of every deck, essentially, if that last part wasn't there, but it does need that last part there to balance it out. So I really like kind of that push and pull again of, hey, here's some benefits, some absurd benefits, but at a giant cost. So if you can either work with or work around that cost, you can get a lot out of this card. Obviously, a Storm kind of a deck could really use this kind of a card where you're just trying to go off in one turn and casting, drawing, and then, casting more ritual spells and stuff like that. Yeah, again, or, again, decks that are looking to lose their entire hand. That would work as well. But yeah, it's definitely a unique card, and I really like the design of it. Next up, though, let's move on to Unleash Fury, an uncommon from M21. An instant for 1 to red, double the power of target creature until end of turn. I really like this concept of doubling power. Obviously, we've seen kind of double strike in the past and things kind of like that. But essentially, just straight up doubling power, I don't believe we've really seen. I could be wrong on this, but I really hope they explore this space more. Working on doubling power, working on, finding new ways to kind of make cards even more effective. Again, maybe something has double strike, but now you give it double power, and that's basically a ×4 to it. So it's really kind of an interesting and unique card. Again, a nice little combat trick. It's not for every deck. It definitely can work in some. Zada could probably use a card like this, but yeah, definitely a nice little card. But now let's move on to a common from Ikoria with Ram Through, an instant for 1 and a green. Says target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. If the creature you control has trample, excess damage is dealt to that creature's controller instead. This is kind of like a green I mean, not burn spell, but essentially, I mean, basically you take one of your creatures and you say this creature has a ton of power, and basically it gives it, a free swing at another creature, and pretend that it had trample, essentially. So, if I got a 10/10, you've got a 1/1, I'm going to take out that 1/1, and you're taking 9 damage. So, again, I just really like this new kind of space of design where it's kind of utilizing your creature for damage on an opponent, and you're taking out another creature, in green. That's kind of unheard of. So I just really like this unique design of this card. Again, not for every kind of a deck, but, there are some decks out there that really want this kind of a card. Let's move on to Surly Badgersaur, a 3/3 Badger Dinosaur, because that's the thing. That costs 3 in a red. It says, whenever you discard a creature card, put a +1/+1 counter on Surly Badgersaur. Whenever you discard a land card, create a treasure token. And whenever you discard a non-creature, non-land card, Surly Badgersaur fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. This is like a Bone Miser, but for red. I really like these kind of, benefits with discarding effects. I think that they're starting to make more and more of these, that can really be utilized and work really well in very specific strategies. Again, not too many discard commanders or discard decks out there, but I really like this kind of a design where, hey, you're getting benefits no matter what is discarding against whatever you discard. So discarding a creature, it gets bigger. Discard a non-creature, non-land, it fights something, so those kind of work together. Discard a land card, create a treasure, so that's some temporary ramp, which can be very nice. Again, definitely a call back to that Bone Miser type of card, and just, I really like this little Badger Dinosaur, so yeah. And let's move on to the final card that I'm going to talk about today with Rootweaver Druid. A 2/1 Elf Druid that costs 2 and a green. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent may search the library for up to 3 basic land cards. They each put one of those cards onto the battlefield tapped under your control, and the rest on the battlefield tapped under their control. Then each player searches the library this way, shuffles it. I really like these kind of political cards that, kind of play to have your opponents kind of fight each other over the decisions that they're going to be making. Basically, if this one, let's just do the math on it really quick. If one of your opponents chooses to do this, that's bad for you. They get 2 lands, you only get 1. And if 2 opponents choose to do it, they each get 2 lands and you get 2, and the other opponent didn't get anything. If they all choose to do it, they each get 2 lands and you get 3. So it just kind of is that, push and pull. It's, okay, who's going to, fold? Who's going to make that decision that's going to upset the other players? So it's a nice card that kind of throws a wrench into your opponent's, maybe alliances or making decisions, kind of. It's just something that can be a very, it makes you stop when you kind of see this kind of a card, and, you can really do some really interesting things with this. Again, it says enter the battlefield, it's not on a cast, so if you keep blinking this, there's some other ways to work around it. You can really have some fun with this kind of a card, and yeah, I really like this kind of a design that really kind of throws a different spin on Commander and really kind of plays into that multiplayer aspect. So yeah, those are my picks for my favorite cards from this year. I'd love to hear from you, though, so in the comments below, let me know what card I didn't say that, was one of your favorite cards this year that you think I should have mentioned. So yeah, let me know in the comments below, and as always, thanks again, and have a good one.